You know, I love YouTube trends. Developers can bring out new AAA titles all day long, and people will be like, yeah, that's cool, I guess, but then go absolutely feral over Watermelon Game. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, I could try and play the Watermelon Game myself, but I'm actually not very good at that. So instead, I'm going to code my own Watermelon Game, which I'm also not good at. But less people realize it, I decided not to use a tutorial for this, because that would be too smart. Instead, I'm going to follow my programmer's instinct. So, where do I start? Let me make one thing clear, by the way. This is not a coding tutorial, mainly because I had no idea what I was doing going into this. I just wanted to sit at my silly little desk and do my silly little coding and make funny fruit game. But not fruit, just game. I'm gonna make the bowl first. The bowl in question is essentially the game area the fruits are dropped into. The bowl has 2 walls and a floor, and they'll both need colliders. Colliders are what turns simple graphics into actual objects in the game, because they allow other objects to, well, collide with them. Then we'll add a ball as an example. Give it a collider and a rigid body, 2D, which allows it to be influenced by physics and gravity. Now it looks like this. Nice. Let's change the size of the ball and add a few variations. I'll do 4 sizes for now and save them as prefabs. Don't worry, the IT terms are gonna get less, I promise. Basically, what prefab means is, rather than having one of those balls in the game, I'll create a blueprint on how to make them, so I can mass produce them whenever I want to. Okay, but how do I drop them now? I'm gonna make a controller, which doesn't physically appear in the game, but contains a lot of code to hopefully control what's happening. My first idea is to spawn a ball at my current mouse position whenever I click. Of course, nothing can ever just work out, but after slapping a camera screen to world point on that, halt! I'm going to explain that now and you're going to listen. A normal computer screen usually operates at a resolution of 1920 times 1080 pixels. So if I tell the program, tell me the current mouse position, it's probably going to give me values like 500 or even 1000. However, Unity doesn't work like that. The grid in the workspace is much smaller. In this case, it actually goes from -10 to +10. So of course, if a ball spawns somewhere at 500 or 200, we're not gonna see that. So what position on the screen corresponds to what position in the Unity grid? That is what camera screen to world point does. And so, after adjusting a few things, balls now spawn above my mouse whenever I click. Now I want them to be visible even before clicking. My solution? I'm creating them in advance, but make them immune to gravity. And then when I click, gravity turns back on and a new one is created. And after another quick addition, the ball now follows my mouse before dropping after a click. And the physics are already physicking. So much for the easy part. Now on to the part where we make the balls merge into a bigger ball. But that can't be that difficult, can it? Well, first off, every ball gets a little label that lets us know what kind of ball it is. Now all we need to do is check for ball-to-ball contact, and if 2 balls of equal size touch, they both disappear and create a new, bigger one. First step, recognize when they collide with another ball of the same size. Except they're not doing that. So this is a very typical coding issue, so I wanted to include it. It turns out that onCollisionEnter and onCollisionEnter 2D are 2 different things. And the other one works. Except I also had to rehaul the entire ball creation process so that now, after a ball drops, the game waits half a second before spawning the next one. And I also changed the no gravity thing and instead just completely remove the floating balls from physical space until they're dropped. Well, so far, so good. But what would coding be without more issues? Right now, I tell the balls, if you touch something that is just like you, kill yourself. And as you see, both balls get destroyed because I'm telling that to both of them. Which means that if I said, if you touch something that is just like you, kill yourself, and then spawn a bigger ball, both balls would spawn the bigger ball. So how do I only spawn one? Here's my arguably clumsy solution. I create a new script to handle the merging. Whenever two equal balls collide, they tell the merge control about it. For every collision, the merge control should get 2 notifications. But it should only spawn 1 new ball. So it counts them. Every time it receives a notification, it increases a counter, depending on the ball size. If the counter reaches 2, for 2 colliding objects, the counter goes back down to 0 and a new ball is spawned. So, does this work? What? Turns out actually adding new components helps. I believe in Jesus now. Let's add a score counter, maybe? For now, I'll give 1, 2, and 3 points respectively for every merge. I also changed up a few colors to make things more visible. And the final step for the basic gameplay, we need that little line on top that tells you when you've stacked too high and lost the game. The general idea for that is pretty simple. Add a line, and whenever balls collide with that line, you lose. However, they need to be able to fall through in the beginning. Let's allow every ball to pass through the line exactly 1 time. If it does it again, you lose. And that almost works. But, see this tiny bit on the big purple one? If the balls never stop touching the line, it always only counts as 1 very prolonged touch. So, now if a ball stays on the line for more than half a second, you also die. Boom. With that, the basic gameplay is complete. There's still this thing. I don't like that this works. I could try and change the physics, or I could make worse shapes. I forgot that I also have to do the colliders. No, yeah, that was a great idea. You know, if it's a circle, you just draw a circle. But no, I had to put in the fucking Leafeon head, because of course I fucking had to. It honestly wasn't that big of a deal. It took like 5 minutes. And now we actually have a bit of a game, and we can combine things and increase the score and... Oh. You know what? You call it a bug. I call it a fucking party. Let's go!